to draw anime girl. I get asked this a lot actually, and this one trick will save you hours of frustration and feelings of hopelessness trying to learn how to draw anime girls from imagination. But before I get to that, how bad do you want it? Binge watching a bunch of YouTube videos isn't enough. You have to be committed to applying what I tell you to practice if you want to fast track yourself to learning how to draw anime. Alright, the super secret sauce that will help you draw any pose is memorizing the 3 most important shapes from different angles. That's one. So I'm going to provide you with a very specific shapes that you will use. Use these shapes to build everything off of. 2. Learn standard manga and anime proportions. 3. Understand gravity and keeping your character balanced. 4. Following my instructions for fast tracking your learning process. Ready? Good. Here's a proportion chart for you of an adult manga or anime girl. The height is 6.5 heads tall and is the proportions I recommend learning. Also, I want to mention that the width of the waist is slimmer and the hips are wider for manga girls compared to the average real life girl. Now take a closer look at the shapes I use for the torso. You should see 3 big shapes in the center. These are the most important shapes of the body, and you need to memorize them: the rib cage, the stomach area, and the pelvis. When I'm drawing, I don't actually count heads, okay? I draw the rib cage area first. The ball for the stomach area is half the height of the rib cage, including the part that goes into the rib cage cavity. The pelvis is slightly longer than the ball height. I always draw a center line, either on each shape individually, or I'll draw like one big line across all 3 shapes to help me get the direction the torso is facing. The neck and the head height together equals the rib cage height. The knee is half the height of the leg, and the elbow is half the height of the arm, measuring from top of the shoulder to the wrist. The fingertip of the hand will hit about around the mid-thigh mark and a relaxed arm. The shapes of the legs and the arms are simplified anatomy, again in the form of tapered cylinders and triangles. Draw a diamond-like shape around the joint and then tapering towards the hand or the foot. I'm going to tell you right now that once you start posing a character and applying foreshortening to standard proportions, will kind of go out the window. It's still worth learning because it gives you a baseline that you can compare to when drawing from imagination. What you need to practice is drawing the torso in every possible angle you can think of on your own without reference. When you find yourself running out of ideas, then go find references of poses you like and draw those torso shapes in that pose. Ignore the arms and legs because when it comes to posing, they aren't that big of a deal. Get the torso right and the arms and legs will fall into place. Trust me on this. Alright, so always use the same shape when you practice. You are building a 3D map in your mind of what these shapes look like. This makes it easy to do. And I must warn you that if you deviate too much, if you deviate to different shapes in your practice, you will make it harder for yourself to learn. I myself made this mistake. Your brain will have a harder time making connection of what the 3D map of the rib cage, stomach area, and the pelvis should look like. So the key here is consistency. Once you feel comfortable drawing the torso, it is time to move on to adding the arms, legs, and head as well if you haven't added the head already. I always draw the weight-bearing limbs first. That's usually the legs, but it can also be the arms depending on the pose. To figure out which leg is the weight-bearing leg, you need to consider a couple of things here. 1, females' center of gravity is in their hips. So that is the main structure that has to be supported, otherwise a girl will fall down. The head is next priority and then the chest is last. Number 2, when you're posing, draw a straight line vertically down from the nose to the ground. If you look at pictures of real people, you will notice that more times than not there will be a foot placed on the vertical line under their nose to support their head. When it isn't, it's because both legs are supporting the weight. Actually, there is a third thing to know. Whichever hip is being pushed upward, that is the weight-bearing leg. If you are having trouble figuring out which leg is the weight-bearing leg, Again, look at reference, look at real pictures of people. Ask yourself, if I kicked a leg out from under this person, which leg would I kick to make them fall down? That's the weight bearing leg. If you kick somebody's leg out from under them and they don't fall down, then you chose the wrong leg. So at this point, you need to practice drawing poses over and over again with these shapes. Ideally, you want to be able to draw these shapes from any pose without reference. That is why the shapes are so simple. It's easier to remember, but use reference when you need it. Once you've established that you can draw these poses comfortably, then you can use reference more for details and inspiration rather than, I don't know how to draw perspective. All right? Now that you understand how to draw anime girls in any pose you want, watch this video where I give you a concrete method to learn anime art style the fastest way possible.